Perfect. Thanks, Fee. And thanks very much for inviting me to talk this afternoon. So I'm going to talk about a specific scheme, regional scheme. It's funded by the EPSRC that we've already heard about today. It's called an EPSRC Place-Based Impact Acceleration Account. It doesn't very much run off the tongue. And the particular scheme that we have here is around innovating medtech across the Yorkshire region. It's run by myself, Ruth Wilcox. I'm from the University of Leeds, along with my colleague, Professor Robert Kay from Leeds, and Professors Paul Hatton and Ipsita Roy from the University of Sheffield, and Professor Philip Conahan, who is the head of the Leeds Biomedical Research Centre. So just to explain a little bit about the scheme, it's a new EPSRC scheme, the Place-Based Impact Acceleration Account, and the purpose is to support activities that accelerate the impact from engineering and physical sciences research. It needs to be place-based and have a thematic focus around a particular industrial cluster, and I'll talk a little bit about our scheme in a moment. And the aim is to enhance the capabilities of clusters and to drive regional growth. So our scheme that we've been funded for is 5.2 million over the next 4 years, and it will support a range of impact projects and knowledge exchange activities. So it's going to be broken down into a series of smaller projects, which will then be open through a series of calls for people to apply to. We're one of 10 schemes that's been supported nationally across different sectors and regions. There's a list over on the right there. There's a couple of others that are related to Healthtech, actually. The Northwest one is around biotechnologies, including biopharma. And in Tayside, there's one around accelerating impact of community healthcare. There's another round of IAAs, of PB-IAAs open at the moment, and I'm sure that there will be more that are related to healthcare that come out of that second round as well. So our particular PB-IAA has a focus on medtech in the Yorkshire region, and really our purpose is to combine the strengths that we have at the universities in the region, the research strengths at universities, with the regional medtech industry cluster. As we were putting the proposal together, we actually commissioned a new piece of economic evaluation around the region, just to put on, this is available, actually there's the DOI for it on the right-hand side, just to put on some of the evidence that we brought together. So this is particularly medical technologies companies, that's a sort of a subset of health tech. We found that there were 244 companies in the region. The vast majority are in West Yorkshire and South Yorkshire, really clustered around Leeds and Sheffield. I think that quite a few have representatives here today, which is great. The different market segments that those companies represent are actually very well aligned with where we have university research strengths in the region. So the market segments, again, are on the right-hand side there: orthopedic devices, hospital hardware, surgical instruments, and so on. Really around kind of high-value products, and where there's engineering and physical sciences input into both the design of the devices themselves, but also into the manufacturing and the manufacturing processes that are needed as well. And as I said, this aligns very well with university research strengths in engineering and physical sciences in the region, particularly at Leeds and Sheffield, the two joint partners on this bid, with active grants of around over 50 million and 60 active academics in that particular field related to medtech. So I haven't put on the technology readiness levels onto here, but just to try and explain what this funding is about, it's really to take research that is coming out of universities, including that funded by the EPSRC, and to bridge that very first valley of death and help to support the translation of that forwards into products and services that can then be of benefit to patients at the end of the day. I've listed there some of the partners that we've been working with in putting this bid together. which includes both clinical partners, but also industry partners and our local combined authorities as well, both in West Yorkshire and South Yorkshire, who've been very proactive in supporting this area of industry. So really the PBIAA, this funding is around trying to de-risk potential technologies that are coming out of universities and get them to a point where they will be more attractive for further investment and that downstream translation. This was a little timeline that we put together for the bid just to show that this particular piece of funding builds on and will leverage off a whole load of previous investments across the region, and you may recognise some of the major initiatives that are shown on there. There were indeed the HTC and other activities that have come on board since we put this together, but also that there's been considerable previous support through the EPSRC and through Innovate UK and through Research England, through an Innovation and Knowledge Centre and an activity called Grow MedTech to support these types of translation funding. So if you're familiar with those schemes, the idea here is similar in a way. So the PBIAA will fund, as I said, impact projects, and I'll talk about those in a little bit more detail on the next couple of slides, but also other engagement and knowledge exchange activities, including events, training activities, secondments, public and patient engagement activities, and some additional funding around that we've received from UKRI to really look at the medtech industry sector in a little bit more detail in terms of the demographics of that and how that represents the region. But I'll talk in detail now about the impact funding itself and what the scope of that is. So first off, the impact funding must be for projects that are related to medical technologies, and we've been working with our advisory board to try and make sure that we've got the definition of this nailed, which is challenging in itself. But really we're talking about devices, tools and machines used to save and improve people's lives. But to be clear here, our scope does not extend to biopharma and it doesn't extend to sort of wellness and fitness devices. So think of this as more as medical devices that we're applying this to. The project should be at least 50% within the EPSRC's remit, so that's Engineering and Physical Sciences remit, and Philippa talked a little bit about this earlier, but the definitions of that are on the EPSRC's website. But they don't need to be linked to prior EPSRC funding. And kind of critical for this place-based idea is that the projects must support regional growth, so growth in the Yorkshire region's medtech economy. The projects have to be led by a member of academic staff at a UK university. Our very first call is going out just to the universities of Leeds and Sheffield, the two partners on the bid, so that we can gauge interest. This is our sort of trial call, which is going to come out in a couple of weeks. But after that, they will be open nationally to any universities, but the proviso is that they must support growth in the Yorkshire medtech region, so working with, as I said, some of the companies that are represented in this room today. And there will be at least two calls per year for the different types of projects. And then we have a process in place to assess and rank those through a peer review process. So three types of projects. The first ones are small, up to 10K, for small initial pieces of work to establish a market or clinical need. So it's around doing some due diligence, some early proof of market, to identify if there's a market out there, what the competitor technologies are, to review what IP there might be in the field, or studies to obtain some commercial, clinical, or patient opinions about this. So just to sort of ensure that there is that clinical need and potential commercial need for the technology. Then we move up to slightly bigger projects, up to 20K, to demonstrate the feasibility of a technology concept. So that could be making initial prototype developments and doing testing on that. ensuring a technology is designed to meet user demands from the outset, so there could also be additional patient engagement, for example, that's needed at that stage, or engagement with a broader range of clinical users to ensure that there is feasibility of the project. And then the larger scale projects are up to 100K, and these are around technical development programs. We've called these proof of concept projects. Said on the last speaker was saying about the difficulty of defining exactly what we mean by proof of concept. But again, we should, I think of this in terms of this should be a step towards de-risking a technology so that it gets to a point where for further investment it's going to be seen as being more attractive. They'll typically be 12 to 18 months in duration. They need to be co-developed with end users to demonstrate both a technical and commercial feasibility, so expecting projects that are jointly funded or jointly developed with industrial partners in many cases, and they also need to have a clinical partner on them as well to show that there really has been a liaison with clinicians and that this is fulfilling a clinical need. And these projects will only be funded if they've already shown that technical feasibility and market need. So that could have been through previous PBIA funding from the due diligence of proof of feasibility, but there are a bunch of other schemes out there as well which may have funded those earlier stage pieces of work. So those are the three schemes. Please do come and have a chat if you want to know more about them. We are officially launching the PBIA on the 15th of April at an event at Nexus in Leeds. For those who are associated with the University of Leeds or Sheffield, hopefully you've already seen some publicity about this going out. If you haven't and you'd like to be involved, we've got an email address there, pbiaa@leeds.ac.uk. Please do get in touch. Thank you very much.